You're live with Down the Wire Sports Talk podcast hosted by Trifecta Network. Take a like us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Boston Sports 617. That is facebook.com/Boston Sports 617. This is Down the Wire Sports Talk. I'm your host, Tanner Bell. Alongside me today is Evan Cook. He's wearing the fancy shirt. And then we got Justin Doyle over there with the polo, and he's wearing the Super Bowl Patriots hat. What's up, boys?
What's going on?
Not much. Some big moves happening over at Trifecta Network. We're making moves, and this podcast is making moves. So we're going to start off today. We're talking about the Boston Bruins and the moves that they've been making. They've been making waves, and one of those waves was firing Boston Bruins head coach Claude Julien. We talked about this last week, Justin and I. It actually broke, I think, that day we talked about it. But Evan, you weren't on the podcast, so what was your thoughts about firing Claude Julien, and was it the right move for the Boston Bruins at the time?
At the time, you can say, yeah, it was the right move after 3 games where the Bruins look like they're actually like a Stanley Cup contender. They're not. But at the time, I thought, this doesn't make any sense. It has to do with it's your personnel, so who's putting that personnel together? It begins with Sweeney and Neely. Those two need to be replaced. They're the ones that have the problem. It's not Julian. It wasn't the system.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that.
It was like my first initial reaction. Then if you listen to Neely's interview that he did on Felger and Maz that Thursday before the game against the San Jose Sharks, he looked scared. He did not look like a guy that should be in charge of a hockey team. He looked scared by them. He even told them that I don't want to deal with these tough questions.
He says that all the time, though.
Ken Neely said that.
He does say it. That team's notorious for not putting their guys in front of the camera. John Farrell faces the music. Brad Stevens goes on. You see it. Tom Brady goes on. Bill Belichick has a weekly radio interview. And you see the Boston Bruins, and it's been years. I mean, Cam Neely used to have a weekly segment on 98.5 with Felger and Maz. That went away. I think you now see Torrey Krug does a weekly segment with a midday program. But this team has run from questions. They've run from their own problems. And Cam Neely, you're right, Evan. I don't think Cam knows what he's doing. And I think it's when they started losing, that's when they stopped actually communicating with the public. And you don't really get a sense the team knows what they're doing. I don't think Sweeney's necessarily the issue. I think he's planning more for the future, all these prospects, the Charlie McAvoys of the world. I think he knows what he's doing in terms of getting prospects and stockpiling talent, which was an issue they had under Chiarelli. But I don't think Claude should have been fired. But the crazy thing is, the first place in the division was the Montreal Canadiens. They fired Michel Therrien, and they hired Claude Julien, which is crazy. Claude ran north of the border. What are your thoughts on that, Justin?
Well, that's kind of funny because before Claude was here, he was their head coach. And then I believe they hired Therrien when he left. And then they've each been in their respective teams for almost the same amount of time, I think. And now Claude's going back. So, I mean, because, the Canadians can't have a coach that can't speak French, so luckily Claude can speak French. Because I know they fired an American coach because he couldn't speak French. But I think Claude said that he wasn't planning on going to a team right now, but he said he couldn't refuse the offer.
Oh, big offer, too. Big offer. Long-term, a lot of money.
I always thought he was going to go to Vegas or, I thought it was going to be Vegas.
He's not flashy enough for Vegas, though. You need a flashy coach. You need a guy like Jeff Fisher, Jeff Fisher should leave the NFL and go coach in the NHL. Simple as that. You need a guy with flash.
The Raiders might be moving to Vegas.
What?
That's true.
I mean, I know they just gave a big contract to Jack Del Rio, but
Jack Del Rio, baby. Yeah. Honestly.
That's big calls.
But with Claude was funny, and he did his interview in French, and they asked him about goaltending. He said Carey Price is the number 1 goaltender in the world. Want to know what happened at the Garden that day? The biggest balloon in the world popped. It just popped. Tuukka Rask must be in the bathroom right now thinking over that. I don't know. It's crazy. Claude Julien, I think he's one of the only coaches in history of any sports to actually have a winning record with 3 teams and get fired by those teams. It's actually crazy. He had a winning record with the Canadians, and he had a winning record with the Bruins.
He's the winningest coach.
Winningest coach. So Bruce Cassidy has had the pleasure to coach 3 Boston Bruins games, and he's won all 3 games. So, Evan, do you read too much into that, or do you think they're on the right path?
I mean, they were impressive games. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, they look like an actual hockey, like a championship hockey team. Saying that first 3 games after you fire the head coach, where most of these guys on this team, that's been the only coach that they've known. Then you bring in, then you have Bruce Cassidy start, your new head coach. It was more of a just, come on, guys, you got to wake up. I don't envision this lasting long term, especially since they're on their bye week right now. I just don't see it lasting long term.
Justin, what's your thoughts on the first 3 games under Bruce Cassidy?
Well, before going to what Evan said, this whole bye week thing, it's the dumbest thing ever. I think I wrote something about it earlier. This ain't football. It's hockey. The whole idea of hockey is having back to back games, having to try and stay healthy the whole season, and it's a game of momentum. They have all this momentum, and now it's gone. So now we won't know if it was just a fluke because it was like a kick in the ass from changing the coach. Kind of like when you change a goalie, even the goalie, it's not his fault, but it's just a kick in the ass to the team to say, hey, guys, what are you doing? Start playing.
That's backwards, isn't it?
CBA. No, we see it.
Oh, you see it?
Collective bargaining agreement.
That's why, Justin, they have it. The players wanted it.
Yeah, they did. The crazy thing is, why wouldn't you wait a week to fire Claude, knowing the bye week's coming? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think they
easy 3 home games.
That's true. That's true. And then if he lost all 3 games, it'd be moving on to someone else. I don't know. Yeah, that'd have been something else. I don't think I read too much into it. I was impressed by those 3 games. You're right, Evan. They look like a hockey team. I haven't seen that out of them all season, and it gives me a glimmer of hope that they might be a team to compete, to contend. I still don't think they're there. They're not going for a Stanley Cup. They're 3rd in the Atlantic. I think the Maple Leafs are right behind them, and they have like 4 games in hand. So if they get
coming off the bye week,
yeah, they will. But the thing is with the Boston Bruins is that if they get passed by a team, they're probably done. If Toronto passes them or ties with them, the Bruins are done. They're not going to come back and get them.
As of right now, the Bruins are on pace for like 88 points, I think. That's not going to make it in the playoffs.
No, it's certainly not going to make it. And the Atlantic's actually been pretty bad this season. If you look at other divisions, if you look at the point totals, like even the Canadians in first aren't that impressive. I think they're 70 points, and I think the Capitals are 77 in the other division. It's something like that. Where it's kind of they're a weaker division. So the Bruins are a creature of their division. In any other division, the Bruins wouldn't be in the playoffs.
Washington's 84 points.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. It's kind of interesting when you see that, but in any other division, the Bruins won't even compete right now. The fact that they're in it right now is because of the division that they're in. And if I was the team, I'd build for long term. I wouldn't make a move. I wouldn't trade off for Landeskog for Brennan Carlo. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think you make that trade.
Absolutely.
That's Sagan 2.0.
It's stupid. You don't make a trade like that. And I would, if I'm making a trade, I'm selling off an asset. I'm selling off a guy like David Krejci. I'm selling a guy like Adam McQuaid, a guy that you don't really see in your long-term plan. I'm trying to build assets. If I'm the team, I'm not trying to look to compete for this season. That's me. That's what I would do. Evan, what would you do for the Boston Bruins right now in management?
Trade a guy like anybody not named. I want to say even maybe just Marchand is the only guy I'd probably keep around. Marchand and Pasternak. You want to keep those 2 guys around, kind of build around them, and then everybody else get out of here. Everybody else is getting pretty old. Get rid of everyone else, build around them, and then start from the beginning. You never. How often do you see these teams stay around the playoff bubble for years on it, and then eventually just become good? It doesn't happen, especially in hockey and basketball. You got to blow it up and then come back.
I agree. I would say my untradables, if I'm management, it'd be Brad Marchand because you can't really get a score like that. Brandon Carlo would be untouchable to me. David Pasternak. Bergeron, I know he's having a down season. He's getting older, but I just wouldn't trade Patrice Bergeron.
That was one name that I'd still even trade.
It would be tough for me to trade him, and I would have to be really convinced if I was management.
You need a captain.
Yeah, he's the leader on the team. But other than Marchand, Pastrnak, Carlo, and Bergeron, I would say have at it. Give me your best offer. They're all tradable. I don't see any asset that you can't trade. Justin, who would you trade or not trade if you were the GM of the Boston Bruins?
I would add Vetrano to the not trade list. And
yeah, I think that's smart.
Vetrano, and then I'd say for prospects, I'd only keep what's his name from BU? I think we just said his name.
McAvoy.
McAvoy. Yep. So
I wouldn't trade prospects. Actually, I'd hold on the prospects. I don't think they hold much trade value anyway, unless it's like a McAvoy.
Krejci, Spooner, Bolowski. I know we just got him, but I mean he's not a flop, but I don't think he
doesn't clicked.
He doesn't have Ryan Getzlaf passing to him. If I had Ryan Getzlaf passing to me, I could score 15 goals.
Well, I know they tried him up there with Bergeron. It just didn't work either. So he's kind of struggled to maintain a presence on the ice, much like Jimmy Hayes. And David Backes has underperformed too.
I forgot Jimmy Hayes was even on the team. So
I think a lot of people do. He has played a little bit better over the last 3 games as well as the team has. Yeah, he did. Krejci looked better. Backes has looked better.
Yeah.
I think they're playing better the last 3 games. It's just, do you build off that, or do you just acknowledge you don't want to be on the bubble anymore and you sell off? And I still think they could sell some pieces here, build for the future, and still be on the bubble and maybe make the playoffs. I think that's something reasonable that they could do. That's just me. We're going to move on to the Boston Celtics, a fun team, a team that is actually pleasurable to watch. They are the second seed in the Eastern Conference behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're ahead of the Toronto Raptors. Around them, everybody has been making moves. Much like Trifecta Sports Network here, everyone is making moves. The Toronto Raptors traded for Serge Ibaka. The Celtics could have traded for Serge Ibaka, but Danny Ainge was reportedly unwilling to max contract offer Ibaka, who's a pending free agent. Cleveland Cavaliers lost Kevin Love for 6 weeks. And he was an all-star, but instead of putting Al Horford to the all-star game, they're sending Carmelo Anthony to go hang out with his best friend, LeBron James. But the Cavaliers are reportedly opening up the checkbook. They don't care about the cap. They don't care about the taxes. They've been given the green light to go acquire an asset to take the place of Kevin Love. So you're the Celtics. You're in the second seed. Played some really good basketball, probably the best basketball of the year. Jaylen Brown's down for a couple of weeks. Avery Bradley might return after the All-Star break. He has an Achilles injury. And you haven't been healthy all year, but you're still the second team. You're still the second seed. And the question I now pose to you guys is, do you make a move? Do you go and acquire an asset, or do you stay put, basing that the chemistry is good enough and you'll get healthy? To throw some names out there, I know Andre Drummond's on the market. He's signed for the next, I think, 4 or 5 years until 2021. And he's a very good rim protector, and that's what Danny Ainge told Toucher and Rich this morning that they want. They want a guy who can get rebounds, who can go up and get blocks. So would you go make a move, Evan? Or do you think they need to make a move?
I wouldn't make a move, and I don't think they need to make a move. Saying that they're not an NBA championship team. I don't want to see them being an NBA championship team this year. You still need a superstar. That's how you win in this league. Right now, I know they're the second team in the East, but if you look at what the playoff standings are right now, that second you win the first round, that would be against actually the Bulls. Then you'd end up playing the Wizards in the second round. Yeah, you would have home court advantage, but can you beat the Wizards?
Yeah, you could. You could certainly beat the Washington Wizards. Dude, I think that would be a fun series, though. They hate each other. I would love to see Washington Wizards.
It'd be a very interesting series. It'd be a very interesting series, but even with that, you still don't know how IT is going to perform in the playoffs.
I wouldn't worry so much about IT. I'd worry about the supporting cast. Guys like Crowder hitting their shots, guys like Horford. I think you're right. They haven't proven that they can win a playoff series, and that might change.
Like people are already giving them like that the East crown. They haven't won a playoff series. Let them win a playoff series, and then you can say, okay, this is exactly what we thought from this year. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They exceeded expectations. This offseason, if by some miracle you get the first overall pick and then you bring in a guy like Lonzo Ball and then he ends up being a superstar, or you somehow miraculously sign another like top-tier free agent for the second time in history.
It's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen. Or you make some kind of trade this offseason, and then you figure that out then. But this year, all I'm expecting from this team and all I really want to see from this team is just a competitive year where they're good and they can build off for next year.
Yeah, honestly, I would say that, but I've seen them play really good basketball, and if you watch another team in the NBA, if you look at the West, look at the Warriors, they're not going to beat the Warriors. Probably not going to beat the Spurs. Probably not going to beat any of the teams up there. They could go toe-to-toe on any given night with any of those teams. Don't get me wrong, but in a playoff series, there's just no shot. They're still not going to get by Cleveland. I don't think they will. Comparatively, I think Isaiah is probably as good as Kyrie Irving. Statistically, he is. He is as good as Kyrie Irving. But when you throw in a guy like – offensively, exactly. Isaiah can't play defense. He doesn't try to play defense, which is an issue I have with him. But I don't think they're going to go.
Issues because it's not big enough. He's 5'8". Actually, 5'7".
Yeah.
5'9".
5'7".
He's listed at 5'9".
So the issue that I have with the Celtics is you're not going to go sign a big name free agent. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think you're going to land another Horford, who I think they might have overpaid for. I don't think he's clicked at all this year, and when he has, it's been for a game or two. I don't think they get that, and I don't think if you get a number one pick in the NBA draft, it's going to make you a contender next year. And I think they are one move away, and I think they need a superstar. And I would go get Andre Drummond if it's possible. I just would really think this team can make a difference with that. What would I give up for him? I would give up the Brooklyn picks. You have that security under that contract of him, so you do have that insurance that he will be here next year and for the next couple of years. Issue is, does he fit with your system? Is he a cancer in the locker room? You don't know that. But if you can flip those Brooklyn picks out, that's just the start, and you might have to give up a guy like a Terry Rozier and maybe something else to go get Andre Drummond. But imagine a starting five where you have Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Al Horford, and Andre Drummond, and I think that would be up there with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I still don't think they beat them, though. That's my issue. As they come back, can you beat LeBron? And I don't think they can beat LeBron. So that's where I sit with this team. It's confusing. It honestly is. I don't know if they make a move. I don't know if they should make a move. I mean, Evan, that was a very compelling case you made, but I just don't know if that's going to make a difference for this team. I don't think they move past Cleveland. They play better than I thought they were. Justin, what do you think the Celtics should do?
I think they should go out and get that guy with the unibrow. What's that guy?
Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
It's not gonna happen.
I like him. He can play defense, right?
Yeah. Hey, New Orleans, what do you want? What do you want for Anthony Davis? Yeah, we'll take both your Brooklyn picks. We will take Jaylen Brown from you. We'll take Avery Bradley. We'll take the whole thing. Andre Drummond is cheaper than Davis, and it's still probably going to cost you Jaylen Brown and both Brooklyn picks to get him. And I don't want to trade for Jaylen Brown. Actually, he actually has played really well. So that's it for the Boston Celtics. They're going into the All-Star break, and it's actually crazy. They're the second seed, and Isaiah Thomas is the only All-Star, which is kind of odd. Like I said, though, Carmelo is going to have a great weekend. He's going to be out there with LeBron.
It's
He's going to have coffee dates. They're going to go. It's another ring on his wall.
Of the NBA Finals, so
they're going to flop together.
Nah, Carmelo's going to. It's another trophy on Carmelo's wall right there next to the Olympics. Carmelo Anthony. I mean, jeez. Ugh. God. Seriously though, that guy is a mess. He is probably the most overrated player. Hey, Jimmy Butler to the Celtics. Still hoping that happens. Still hoping that happens.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, but it might. Very well might. So we can finish up, talk about the Boston Red Sox really quick. The Red Sox started spring training this past week, and interesting discussion that we had in the pre-show, which didn't air, but we got into it a little bit, was the starting rotation. Rick Porcello was ranked, I think, 95th or something like that on the top 100 players in baseball by MLB.com. He was the reigning American League Cy Young winner, and he should be your opening day starter. And this is a discussion that I think Evan's pretty passionate about as well. But people are saying Chris Sale should be it. I think it's Rick Porcello. I don't think there's any way in hell it's not Rick Porcello, no one John Farrell. Evan, what is your thoughts on the rotation, and what's your 1 through 5? Who starts games 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5? Yeah.
I mean, it really only matters the first time through the rotation. But,
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to give it to Rick Porcello. He was the reigning Cy Young Award winner. Just that fact alone, you got to give it to him out of respect. Like I said, doesn't really matter who it is. Now, who would you be facing on opening day? Garrett Cole, right? He's the ace in Pittsburgh?
Yes, Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
He's very good.
So, he is. Trust me, I draft him in fantasy pretty much every year. And every year he gets hurt somewhere in the middle of the season. After that, you got to go with Chris Sale. He's the guy that you brought in. He's the guy that you're expecting stuff out of. Then you got to give it to David Price in Game 3. He just underperformed last year. Yeah, I know he had a great year after, I think it was like May 12th. He had like a 3.2 ERA, which is pretty good. But overall, then after that, it's so sketchy just because you don't know what the health is of Pomerantz, Wright, and Erod. What I'd like to see is Wright Game 4, and then I'd like to see Erod in Game 5. Saying that you don't know what the health is of both of them, since
all three of them, you don't really know what you're gonna get at anybody there.
No, you don't.
That's the issue.
But I'm specifically talking about Erod and Wright. With Wright, since Farrell was a dumbass and had him pinch run and not Buckholz out in LA, he basically killed who was the most. At the time, you can make the argument he should have won the AL Cy Young Award.
He was in the running. He was an all-star.
He was one of the best pitchers in the AL, and basically because of that, he took, like John Farrell, took a Cy Young away from him. You don't know what you're going to get out of that. And Erod, I wrote a post for about it a couple months ago. When Erod hurt his knee down in Venezuela during the Winter League last year, that happened in spring training. They say it's going to be out a week. He didn't pitch a major league game until May. He pitched like crap, and then he didn't look like the Erod again until the All-Star break. You don't know what you're going to get out of Erod either. You really don't. It might not be until June until you see the Erod that we expect to see.
Thing is, if you have an Eduardo Rodriguez that is pitching up to his potential, you have a solid pitcher. You have a guy who's throwing mid-3s ERA, and he is a solid guy if he's healthy. I think John Farrell is going to go with Rick Porcello Game 1, not based on the Cy Young, but just by the way that he's performed for him in the past. I think that's just the way John Farrell thinks. I think you're right, Chris Sale. Not Chris Young. Chris Young will be in the outfield. Chris Sale will get Game 2. David Price Game 3. And I think Eduardo Rodriguez goes Game 4, and I think Steven Wright goes Game 5. I think Drew Palmer is going to pitch out of the pen. But you're right, you don't know. You literally don't know what's going to happen with this rotation. And as good as those front three guys are, there's some unpredictability up there as well. You don't know what Rick Porcello you're going to get. Are you going to get the Rick Porcello from Detroit? Well, that Rick Porcello is a middle-of-the-rotation starter. Are you going to get the Rick Porcello last year, who's a Cy Young contender? Are you going to get the Rick Porcello from 2 years ago, who wasn't worth shit? So you don't really know what you're going to get. You look at David Price. He had a mid-3 ERA after May. You're right. I don't know what you're going to get out of him. I expect improvements, and I expect he's actually going to be your best pitcher because I think Chris Sale is going to get Tommy John surgery. I think Chris Sale is not going to have a good year. And I know it's pretty negative for me to say that, but I have read reports of this guy having elbow tightness in the past. He had it this past season. They shut it down. And whenever I hear elbow tightness in any pitcher, I think Tommy John eventually. Might not be this year. It could be next year. I don't know. It's not nice to wish anything upon a pitcher like that, but it's just so frequent that I think you could see it happen with him. And it's tough, to come into Boston and pitch well. We saw with David Price, John Lackey. We've seen all these guys come in and they've just failed. And Chris Sale's an excellent pitcher. I don't know if it's going to go well. And Evan, you know that too. It's so unpredictable to predict someone coming into Boston. I don't know what your thoughts on that. But yeah, I don't know. I have no expectations with this rotation, and I think people are already claiming they're the American League East champions. I don't see that, and I don't know who's going to be the leader in the clubhouse without David Ortiz. A lot of questions with this team. Justin, what's your thoughts on the Red Sox rotation?
I'm going to agree basically with you guys, but I'm going to switch around a little bit. Well, Porcello stays at 1 just because he proved himself, and I think he can't really give it a price. He didn't play that well, and then he can't give it a sale because he's unproven here. So I don't know why the heck anyone would think he would start when. How many times has he pitched in Fenway? Maybe once, maybe twice.
A couple times, but yeah.
So then I'd put Price second and Sale third, just for the play on of words, because then you get Price then Sale. It's just kind of funny. I mean, I think they're pretty interchangeable, but I mean, I think it's fine. And then I'd put Wright at 4 with Evan. I don't think he's a 5 guy. I think he proved like you guys said, as long as he doesn't have to pinch run and to go tell a pitcher to slide head first, because that doesn't end too well. And then I'd go with Erod, as long as he doesn't, tilt his pitches anymore.
Okay, Jared Remy picking that off from the booth.
Yeah. I like you guys. I don't know. I mean, I've kind of lost interest in the Red Sox over a few years. I've been picking it back up, but it's just, I don't know. We'll see. It's very unpredictable. No one knows about anyone.
Evan, what's your expectations for Chris Sale? What do you expect him to come into Boston and do in his first year, realistically?
Me?
Yeah.
Sorry. I got a stat up right here. Chris Sale's stats at Fenway Park over the last 3 years. He's 1-1, and in 19 2/3 innings, he has a 4.12 ERA, giving up 20 hits, 9 earned runs, and 22 Ks.
And one of those games was last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he actually looked pretty damn good in that one. I know, as you know, you went to that game. I want to think that he's going to have, like last year he had, I think it was a 3.12 ERA. You're going to have to assume it's going to come up because he's coming to Boston. I know Chicago's a big market town, but nobody cared about the White Sox last year.
No one ever cares about the White Sox up there.
It's even when the Cubs suck, they still care more about the Cubs. It's true. But next year, like this year, I don't expect what Price did last year. I expect something more along the lines of maybe like a 3.5 ERA, maybe a 6, maybe not a 6. Maybe like 16-9 or something like that.
Yeah, I still expect over 15 wins.
Good season. It's gonna be a good average season, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty negative saying I think he's gonna get Tommy John, but honestly, who knows? I don't like predicting when a pitcher comes into Boston, and fans have their hopes up. Honestly, I think the locker room's going to be an issue. Chris Sale, you heard some stuff going on in Chicago. Was the team in the right?
But what?
Probably not. With Chris Sale.
Are you talking about the uniform cutting?
Not just Jersey Gate. The whole thing with what's his face, Adam LaRoche. Like the whole situation where he was just yelling at the GM. I mean, I know Boston's a little bit different, but you don't really know.
It had nothing to do with the clubhouse. That had to do with the ownership. He hated the ownership because they're all scumbags.
Oh, John Henry's any different?
Not
He's not that bad. No, I agree. But you don't know what you're going to get there. You don't know how it's going to mesh. Like I said, David Ortiz isn't here anymore. Is Dustin Pedroia going to be that guy? But from what I understand, Pedroia is not a clubhouse guy. He's more of a show up on the field and perform and basically lead by example. Where Ortiz is more of the clubhouse guy. And I don't know who's maybe Hanley Mercer is that guy. I don't know. But someone's got to keep Pablo off the Twinkies, and someone's got to keep Hanley's head in the game. And what's gonna? I don't know. What's gonna happen? I don't know. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if the team's not the front runner in the AL East. I think they should be, given the division. But I wouldn't be shocked. I have no expectations going into the season. It's the first year that I'm watching the team, and David Ortiz isn't in the DH role. So I don't know. We haven't seen this before, Evan. I mean, we haven't. People have. But I don't like to predict it. I don't think it's going to go as well as people think, but they should still be competitive. So that's it for Down the Wire Sports Talk podcast. You guys have any closing remarks, arguments, points?
I can't wait till next week when we start getting games again.
No, I do agree. I completely agree. You guys watching NBA All-Star Weekend?
I might watch Saturday night.
Oh yeah, that's the fun part. You got the skills, the dunk, and then you have the 3-point contest. Justin, any closing remarks? The dunk? Yeah, the dunk should be fun. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Boston Sports 617. Make sure to follow the blog at trifectasportsnetwork.com. That is trifectasportsnetwork.com. Until next week, have a great week.